Thank you for your attention. Thank you for joining the Teads Automotive webinar. We're very much focusing today on the Great Loyalty Reset. My name is Nick Crossley. I'm the Auto Industry Director. And joining me today, we have Babs, who is our Data and Measurement Lead, and Steve, who is the Creative Strategy Director for Teads. Both have tremendous experience in automotive in particular. Steve very much focuses on the creative around automotive, and Babs has got a lot of experience looking after Mercedes and looking at insights for some of the biggest global automotive brands. In terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to give you an extremely brief intro to Teads for those of you that don't know us. But the bulk of today's meeting will very much focus on the crisis of continuity, which I'll take you through, how you can win that 10-week sprint, which is all important. And Babs will also take you through what we believe the new formula for effectiveness is in this new era. And then Steve is going to spend a really good session talking you through how you can activate in the current climate at the moment and provide you with some creative innovation. So we've got a really good session planned for you. We'll pause at the end for a bit of an interactive Q&A. If you do have any questions, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of the webinar. If you fill in that section, we'll answer those questions at the end. So without further ado, just very quickly, for those of you that don't know, Teads, essentially we are the gateway to the open internet. And while social is very much built on the scroll, we're very much built on that delivering advertising for live premium in a premium environment and a very much brand safe environment. And one of our strengths is our full funnel offering. We are now able to provide media solutions from web in read through to CTV in stream and of course our home screen. And we very much see ourselves as complementary to the walled gardens, being able to reach that incremental audience that you might not get through some of the social platforms. And one of our other superpowers is really the scale, quality, and exclusivity that we can deliver for you. And I'm proud to say we are 100% MFA free, and we have a huge focus on delivering that best-in-class brand safety for all of our brands. And on the right-hand side there, you've got a very small sample of the number of premium publishers that we work with on a day-to-day basis. Talking of scale, I mean, it's pretty impressive. We can reach 94% of the UK population. That's 54 million unique visitors. So tremendous scale. And that's really even across all of the demographics, which I'll come on to shortly. So I'm going to just pause here. We're obviously in a fairly unique time in the world of automotive at the moment, with a number of challenges facing brands. But rather than giving my thoughts straight off, I'm really keen to get what your thoughts are. So we're just going to launch a poll. And what I'd like you to do is select what you feel is your greatest challenge facing the auto industry in 2026. And if you could just select one, that would be great. Actually, I'm just looking at my menu. I don't seem to have the option to launch the poll. 1 second. Great. Okay, so the poll has been launched. If you could just take a moment to choose which you feel is the greatest challenge. Great. I'll give you a couple more seconds, but it's pretty even. Okay, so what I can see, and I'm just going to end the poll and share the results. So really, really interesting. I mean, the reality is I've been in the industry or connected to the industry for over 20 years. I probably haven't seen it as challenging as it is now. So all of these are pretty relevant. But what the poll is telling us is that the choice of supply is seen as probably the number one challenge at the moment, with Chinese entrants and more competitors than there have ever been. That's at 43%. Then we have got loyalty, the lack of loyalty being a factor at 29%, and the affordability crisis, which I'll touch on in a minute, at 24%. So really, really interesting to get your thoughts on that. Right. Right, back to so let's start just looking at some of the conditions that we're experiencing at the moment. So there are considerable market forces, as we've all just touched on. One of the biggest is really this pragmatic switchers phase that we're seeing. 62% of consumers agree now that vehicle ownership is becoming just too expensive. So what that's created is this pragmatic switch, which really is driving the lack of loyalty. They feel that because it is so expensive, they're willing to dump the brands that they've owned for many, many years in search for better value or for tech. And the race to win consideration is more competitive than it has ever been before. The likes of Geely, Omoda, JQ, and BYD have come into the marketplace and really disrupted. But it's not just those brands. 20 years ago, there may be 15 to 18 major brands in the marketplace. We're now looking at over 50 sort of volume manufacturers. That's excluding sort of cottage industry brands that are in the marketplace and available for consumers to choose. So the race to win consideration has never been more competitive, and brands really need to be at the top of the funnel, generating strong awareness if they are to be considered. The research backs this up. The majority of consumers are now open to switching, 82% in fact, which really does prove that that loyalty gap is widening ever more, ever more so. And essentially, it's an open race for all brands to win that purchase decision. I just wanted to touch on the affordability war. I actually think this is something that is often missed because of just how many challenges we have in place at the moment. But if we just slow down and think about who is actually able to afford a car these days, it's quite stark. So less than 10% of private new registrations are now bought by the 18 to 35-year-olds. So that has dropped to an all-time low and has basically created this generational exit. So if you spin that on its head, that means now that 80% of registrations are now driven by the 45 plus year old demographic. And I guess we have to all ask ourselves, when we're putting in place digital plans and we're considering our to market strategies, how much focus is in going on actually reaching the right audience that can genuinely afford to buy the car, this 45 plus demographic. And it's as always that tension between building a brand for the future and actually the ability to shift the metal now. And the data suggests now it is very much the 45 plus demographic that you need to be focusing on if you want to be moving the metal now. The good news is this is a bit of our super strength. Teads is particularly good at reaching that high disposable income 45 plus demographic. So we can reach over 91% of the audience. So if you look at this graph at the bottom, we have a reach of 91.6% for 45 to 54-year-olds and 92% for 55 plus year olds. And universally across all of the demographics, we can deliver considerably more reach than the likes of Instagram and TikTok. As an example, 22.7% more than Instagram, 29 million more than TikTok. So I guess the message is we can give you that universal access to all demographics, and importantly, the demographic that can physically buy the car in today's market. But as we've just touched on, it's not just about scale that's important, it's also the affordability. And Teads comes out particularly high on this. So we have a 133.7 score in terms of propensity or affordability propensity. That beats the likes of Netflix, Prime Video, and YouTube. So a wealthier audience is on the open internet, in particular with Teads, and they generally have a higher intent to purchase. So there are solutions out there, despite the very difficult climate that we are working within. If that wasn't enough, there's also a major transformation in terms of discovery speed. So not a new statistic, but 95% of journeys begin online. And the AI tools are very much shortening those research times further. But one of the crucial ones I think everyone needs to be aware of is 42% of buyers now spend just 2 weeks or less researching brands. So in general, it tends to be a 10-week consumer purchase journey. But there is a crucial 2 week period where brands are put onto the shopping list. And if you're not on that shopping list, then you won't even get researched and you won't even be able to generate leads. So Making sure that your brand is generating the awareness and consideration at the top of the funnel is absolutely crucial, as well as addressing the bottom of the funnel and driving leads. And we're very much entering into this performance crisis era. We've seen dramatic drops in brand website traffic and retailer web traffic. We're seeing some of the historical affinity media providers struggling to generate the leads they once did, and PPC not delivering either. The good news is we can really help you bridge that. So Teads, in particular, can take the showroom experience further up the advertising funnel to bridge that gap. So you're not waiting for the traffic to hit your website. You're taking some of the educational pieces, the awareness pieces to the consumer earlier in the process to try and combat this situation. So there's quite a lot to handle at the moment, but it's not all bad news. Teads has essentially a three-pillar strategy to try and help you combat the current market situation. Number one, focusing on recapturing that traffic, moving that showroom visit up the funnel or into the living room through the homepage or in stream, and making sure that you're capturing the audience in the right way. Number two, bridging the educational gap. So win the 42% of consumers who now finalize their brand shortlist in less than 2 weeks. And we've got a number of tools that can support you with that. And then finally, focus on the right things, focus on the attention multiplier, combat that falling PPC lead volume, as it's proven to deliver really strong sales lift. With that, I'm now going to hand over to Babs, who's going to talk you through this in a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Nick. So I'm here to talk through sort of two different lenses to the purchasing journey and the decision making, the data behind automotive purchase decisioning, which is more complicated than any sort of vertical that we see in the overall advertising consumer landscape. So the first graph you see on your screen here is looking at the 10 week selection journey and telling that story as a starting point. At Teads, we have Teads Barometer, which is a look into the insights based on readership that peaks and troughs at different parts of the year, depending on consumer interest, and is an index scoring of how consumer interest peaks across the board. In the blue here, you have what we call awareness and consideration titles. So this is readership aggregation scores based on people searching for things such as hybrid cars, family cars, electric cars, sedan cars, car types. So general awareness and consideration related topics. And then on the bottom, on the pink, you have purchase intent related indicators. So this is all centered around auto buying and selling. And immediately off the bat, what you see is that the awareness trends are higher, the index is higher, and the overall kind of bulk of readership is geared towards these awareness titles. So researching, talking, and looking at articles around car types. But purchase intent is something of more of a lagging indicator. This data is taken from the start of May last year to the start of August. And you see within that range of time, there's a lagging indicator behind when people are researching and peaking around their readership of awareness titles. A few weeks later, or approximately 10 weeks later, you have that sort of lagging intent in terms of a peak in readership for the auto buying and selling vertical, which shows that this selection journey is something that brands will want to initially get across of. When we look at the next slide, this transactional lag, where we focus on those purchase intent related readership terms, is even more apparent. So the average sort of readership over time from the start of like the 10-week journey we're talking about, as it extends beyond that sort of initial sort of early phase into the new sort of layer where people will be making their decisions, you see that apparent sort of readership intrigue really peak around that time when it comes to the intent pickup, as we say. So this is the window where the hard yards ideally should be laid in the early phase from the advertisers, and then you get a more tactical and more flexible with regards to the final selection within what we call that 2 week or 10-day sprint. And that's where you want to be really focusing your activity on creative ways to bring that purchasing journey closer to the consumer within their home and trusted digital environments, something that Teads is very well placed to do. And the rest, there's a range of sort of facts and figures that we can look at when it comes to personifying this early stage dominant and how Teads are very well placed to serve in this range. So what you're seeing here is a range of statistics. The left-hand side talks about 75% of buyers spending the majority of their 3 to 4 months sort of consumer journey within those awareness consideration stages. This is taken from a Teads sort of automotive pulse report from the previous year, and it's something that's really personified when we look at the data that I showed previously. The next few stages are taken from a defined Teads audience within the GWI data that we partner very close with. And we have a sort of look in terms of how that Teads audience's indexes for propensity towards buying automotive goods or buying cars in general. So we see things such as the planning to buy within the next 2 years being around 90%, a high intention to buy within the next 7 to 12 months, and even a near term intent of being around just on 9%, which sort of looks in terms of that nature of people moving throughout that funnel process and recent activity being there's capturing of recent people within that team's audience who have purchased the car in the last 3 to 6 months. So they're somewhat being influenced by that journey in general. They're very in tune with the online space, and that in a lesser degree is helping to fuel their ongoing movement through the purchasing funnel in some way, shape, or form. Now we touch on the 71% rule. So again, on the left-hand side, taken from a previous sort of Teads research report on automotives and consumer habits in general, we see that 71% of all digital touchpoints occur during these first two stages, around high level of awareness and high level consideration. And then when we look at a categorization within GWI in terms of what we define as auto enthusiasts, so these are people within the UK who are regular visitors of websites and readers of car magazines. They rely on certain destinations, main use in terms of products and brand sites, and then a high propensity to use sort of a brand website in the last month to really fuel their ideas and concepts on what they're looking to purchase. So this strong propensity towards direct branded touch points is really something that should be piquing the interest from a creative standpoint and also sort of targeted and activation standpoint in terms of how we bring that journey closer to them and how we really help influence their sort of brand decision making. Beyond this, and automotive probably this applies to this vertical more than any other, the element of trust is really key to a client's decision making or advertiser's decision making or even like a consumer's decision making. Within the Teads web audience that represented 2 slides beforehand, there's a natural propensity to be highly engaged and seek information. So they will recently visit brands' websites within a month period, and they use those websites and those product sites to research, which is significantly above the average for the UK population. When it relates to autos in particular, they discover brands through trade magazines, articles and sites, and also newspaper and magazine website articles itself. They also look at relying on auto magazines, in particular for their car decision-making process, and then separate outside of the automotive space, which I think is a sort of a important indicator. They are also looking at truth and researching news sites, which outperform social media, which we know is a heavy vehicle and canvas for all sorts of advertising. So just some food for thought in terms of how you want to approach them. That's the data set and the story and how we can use the data and insights from both internally and externally to inform our decision-making process around automotive advertising. But how do we look at how we put this into action? I talk a lot within my role about this idea of media effectiveness. We've moved far beyond the idea of simple viewability and looking at vanity metrics and moving towards a phase of what we want to measure in terms of what actually drives growth. We simply have a lot of resources beyond measure that can help really quantify for every vehicle and every sort of sector and how we can drive growth and improve outcomes for our clients. The media effectiveness formula basically takes into consideration the maximization of quality of exposure or attention and creative resonance, aspiration, and using that to ensure that we increase the value of every media dollar invested for our advertisers. This efficiency then creates this line between media execution and effective, tangible business outcomes, and with the hope of ultimately fueling sustainable market share growth over time in a persistent and consistent forefront. And within this sort of formula, there are three pillars that underpin effectiveness. Quality of exposure talks about things such as attention and how the importance of attention, but also talks about targeting, reaching right people in the right context at the right moment at the right time using data and insights. Creative resonance is something that obviously Steve will talk about in our final section, but more so just how we look at creative execution and effective creative and relevant creative that can resonate with the target audience. And ultimately, what underpins this is the ability to measure success and quantify the outcomes that underpin the strategies that we put into place and put onto paper. Ultimately, within everything, we have a range of suites within Teads, within our Teads directory that we could spend hours upon hours talking about. But what I really wanted to focus on for the context of this conversation is context. We know that we can reach audiences who are tuned in or recent car intenders based on our propensity modeling. We even have third party audiences with the likes of Nielsen that can really look in terms of certain car models and car intent across the board. But another added pillar that's very important is this idea of high intent contextual audiences that can supplement our third party data. So internally within our directory, one topic such as automotive and also buying or general automotive interest can unlock a world of insights in terms of the types of people who are going to index highly for being interested in automotive buying and selling or different automotive types, and also what else are they interested against across the board and where that synergy lies across the board and where you may want to position your strategies across the board as well. And a good example of this is found in the next slide, where we can see from our directory for the last 30 days, those reading about automotive topics are actively looking or researching for specific non-automotive products or services. And these range across the board. Travel stands out here, retail, entertainment, fashion and finance, to name a few. And this is not even touching from the context of the ideas of the inherent link we know between sports and automotive, high sporting events within a high sporting calendar, and that inherent link we have between those verticals as well. So it's really an open canvas, and the landscape at large contextually is an open canvas for automotive brands to really create that resonance that we speak about. Contextually, just as a reminder, what separates Teads from where the competitors in the main walled garden channels is this idea of sort of going beyond the keyword to use semantic analysis and understanding the conversations and the nuances of different conversations which happen within each web page within our premium publisher environments. And because of this categorization, we then come up with a taxonomy of over 500 plus segments, which offer scale and levels of granularity which are unmatched and unrivaled, and should be kind of used forefrontally to create insightful activations across the board, and allowing for clients to really understand the nature of their audiences and the multifaceted nature of how they browse the open web and understand where an ad should be placed and what time an ad should be placed at. But can we have your attention? We talked about the importance of sort of media effectiveness from going beyond the standard brand metrics, and attention has evolved from a vanity metric at the start to something that's really influencing metrics across the board, from brand lift to overall performance and now to profit. What puts Teads at this forefront of winning this attention battle is the ability to integrate ads seamlessly into the heart editorial content in a non-disruptive and non-forced manner. This is what we call the non-intrusive advantage. It allows and empowers users to control the navigation, enjoy the content that they browse across the open web and within connected environments, and ensure that interaction with ad content that's premium is voluntary and genuine. This preserves the quality of the user journey and the sort of coherentness of the user journey, but also changes the nature of how attention is captured and pivots from the idea of forced feasibility across walled garden channels to an open space where there's a more propensity for positive brand affinity and relevance and high aspiration across the board. We know from years of meta-analysis using major attention partners across the board that Teads is a good place to be to prove that attention is a better baseline for viewability than brand lift. We've seen higher increase in terms of aided brand awareness and purchase intent, and this is just the start of the baseline. Beyond just brand lift, if you look at the next slide, We know that it's also influencing sales lift. We've done a lot of work in the CPG place in particular across Europe, which showcases the ability of the positive impact that attention can have on sales lift metrics such as ROI. And it's something that can really be a learning stage and an open canvas for automotive brands to really seize upon. And beyond just the standard sort of vanity metrics, the positive retention rate, and we know the inherent link that that has within attention and ultimately brand outcomes. This can be seen through our pivot from just the open web to the connected TV space. And the power of the Teads home screen is really in full flow when compared to other alternatives within the natural browsing habits. We see the pivot from YouTube being just a desktop experience and now being a TV experience. And even with that taken into place, Teads is really well placed to dominate and have an impactful positive experience to the user browsing journey and the advertising experience in general within these sectors. And it's also the quality of attention that also matters. So when we talk about skippable and non-skippable here, we're not meaning in terms of the actual inventory, the actual ad slot being served. We're talking about the experience of being voluntary versus non-voluntary. And Teads has two sort of unique propositions, well, not unique propositions, but valuable propositions on its hand from the in-read slots within the web and home screen slots within CTV, which are voluntary, skippable alternatives compared to non-skippable ads opportunities that are not voluntary. And these are proven to deliver long-term sales lift across the board. And this is something that is really impactful and important because it reinforces the ability of contextual relevance, but also effective creative in driving this voluntary attention and resonance across the board within the open web and connected environments, and something that we've seen for the forefront going forward that's really working towards our benefit. And again, just to reiterate, I've talked about in previous discussions about the home screen being this unmissable pitch, a voluntary first thing that is seen when people open their new sort of connected TV devices. And through studies like this, which we did in France for a company called Mediamento, we see the impact that the home screen has in terms of attention metrics and overall sort of brand lift, high levels of awareness and high levels of positive reception from the open audience. And through creative executions and interesting creatives like this example from Adidas, automotive brands really have the ability when they work with Teads to really be shown in the best light possible and increase aspiration, which then leads on to the ability to drive the ultimate sales metrics that they crave for. And it's important to reiterate as a final point that not all platforms are equal. So from the scroll and the sort of intrusive environment of the social ad to a open web experience which can repurpose those social ads and assets and that message to in a more cost effective, efficient way, we are very well placed at Teads to really deliver sort of an experience that provides better value and impact for our clients than other sort of walled garden channels in particular. So a lot of people, when they look at the incrementality that Teads is able to bring, will factor in that social can deliver and reach certain parts of the open of their sort of audience that's unique to other walled gardens in a more kind of cost-effective manner. But when we put together sort of simple quality metrics such as an advanced VCR of 75%, then Teads really sticks out in terms of the level of effectiveness it's able to drive compared to a Meta, for example. And if you look at the next slide, this is spelled out even more. Just beyond going through reach, if you look at attentive reach, so this sort of cost per quality views metrics of looking at the amount of people reached who are gaining over VCR over 75%, we're able to filter out waste better than the social gardens and deliver these predictable outcomes at low effective costs. This efficiency differentiates ourselves from another sort of walled garden channel, which will be able to deliver similar reach on paper, but in reality, the quality of that reach and ultimately the ability to deliver better brand goals is hindered compared to Teads, which is a very much a efficient way of delivering better salient outcomes for brands across the board. And then just to round off, before I pass it to Steve, just to reiterate the three pillars of effectiveness. We want to ensure quality exposure, which is reflected in effective targeting and a multi-screen omnichannel experience. We want to have creative resonance at the forefront of what we do and garner attention across the various touch points, be it web or CTV. And we want measurable outcomes. So, alongside every step of the journey with our clients, we want to quantify the quality of exposure and that creative resonance that we constantly want to strive for through different measurement solutions and stretch the barrier of what is measurable overall. And with that, I'll pass on to Steve to talk through about all things creative.
Thank you, Babs. In this section, I'm going to focus on ad solutions that will educate and drive actions. So if we move to the next slide, please, Nick. But just before I get to that, as a brief intro to Studio, for those that may not know, our remit is to work in collaboration with agencies and brands to build best-in-class ad experiences based in AI prediction that have a very clear KPI focus, and we do this for all screens in the home. And we do this by refactoring existing brand assets. And there's a real clear delineation there. We're not a creative agency. What we are is an optimization service to ensure your assets perform to the best of ability within our platform. So if you just play the videos, Nick. So Studio are the intermediate. What we're doing is facilitating understanding with an attention-led mindset of design. Because although we know that our users' eyes are firmly fixed on the screen in front of them, we also know that looking isn't necessarily understanding. So adapting to evolving consumer consumption behaviors in this area really, really is paramount, and I can't stress that enough. We have an opportunity to combine screens to facilitate the right storytelling at the right time, but it's also super important to take into consideration the different experiences that the consumer is having throughout the day with their media. And this is backed up by our findings with our research with media science. We're able to see that combining CTV and mobile ads, we can boost unaided recall by up to 67%. So it really is beneficial for the brands that we carry to really look outside of just a mobile and desktop environment. But as I said today, I'm going to be focused on the consideration and conversion areas of the funnel, creatives that educate and drive actions. So starting with upper mid-funnel consideration. And here we have an example of a virtual showroom. So virtual showroom ads let users explore every USP and customize their car to their exact specifications. It turns browsing into an immersive, hands-on experience, boosting engagement, deepening brand connection, and inspiring confident purchase decisions. All from the comfort of their own screens. And these types of experience can be built by us, of course they can. But if they already exist on your websites, we can directly pull them into our ad real estate via an API feed. So rather than having or expecting a user to find these sort of experiences 4 or 5 pages deep into your URL, we can bring them to the user because they're really, really, really powerful. So again, as Nick mentioned earlier, moving these sort of experiences further up the purchase funnel so the user can educate themselves much earlier in that decision-making process. Configurators as well. So again, bringing the website configurator directly into your ad. Again, if you have a configurator on your website, we can pull it in to our ad real estate, or we can rebuild the experience by scraping those assets from your website. Users can explore key USPs and customize every detail to their preference, creating an interactive, personalized experience that drives engagement, builds excitement, and moves them closer to purchase. So once again, not just leaving these experiences on your URL and hoping that someone finds them and enjoys them. Again, taking them further up the purchase funnel and delivering them directly to the user or potential consumers through our ad real estate. And next we have conversational. So conversational in a category where consideration is high and decisions take time. Conversational ads create a more natural, I guess, two-way interaction between the brand and the consumer. Instead of passively watching an ad, users can actively explore, asking questions, selecting features, and tailoring the experience to what most matters to them. And for automotive brands, this is a real game changer. Conversational ads allow potential buyers to dive deeper into key decision drivers like performance, safety, pricing, or availability of models, all within the ad itself. It's like bringing the showroom directly to the user wherever they are. The benefits here are really, really clear. First, higher engagement because users are in control of the journey. Second, stronger qualification because their interactions signal real intent and preference. And third, better outcomes, driving more informed prospects further down the funnel before they even reach your website or even a dealership. I'm moving down into low mid performance. And first here we have the in-read performance. So Teads in-read performance places high impact video and display directly within premium editorial content, meaning your brand appears exactly where consumers are already engaged and attentive. As the user scrolls, the ad seamlessly comes into view, capturing attention without disrupting the reader experience. So we're really respectful of the user experience here. For automotive advertisers, again, this is particularly powerful. Car buying is a high consideration journey, and in-read performance allows you to showcase key moments, design, performance, innovation within a quality, brand safe, and trusted environment. It's an opportunity to tell a richer story than standard display formats. And again, the benefits here are really, really clear. First, strong attention and viewability, ensuring your message is actually seen. Second, a brand safe premium context that enhances perception of your brand. And critically for automotive positioning. And third, efficient reach and scale, helping you connect with qualified audiences across the open web. And let's look now at how Teads in-read performance is evolving creative through AI-powered video. It wouldn't be a creative presentation without mentioning AI somewhere along the route. So traditionally, high-impact video requires heavy production, but with Teads in-read performance, a single static image can be transformed into a dynamic short-form video using AI, bringing benefits to life quickly, efficiently, and at scale. And again, for automotive brands, this unlocks huge value. Whether it's a new model launch, a dealership offer, or a tactical campaign, you can turn existing assets like very simple car imagery into engaging video that highlights design features and selling points in motion. Again, here the benefits: first, speed and efficiency, launch campaigns faster without the need for full video shoots. Second, enhanced engagement. Video naturally captures more attention than static formats. And third, performance. AI optimization ensures the most effective versions are served to the right audience, driving stronger, lower funnel outcomes. So just to summarize this slide, I guess, ultimately, Teads in-read performance helps automotive brands to do more with less, transforming single assets into high-impact video that captures attention, drives consideration, and delivers results. And now moving down into the low funnel and performance with our in-feed solution. So our in-feed ad placements position your brand directly within the flow of trusted content, where audiences are already engaged and they are open to discovery. So native by design, these ads blend seamlessly into the user experience, earning attention rather than interrupting it. With powerful targeting and optimization, your message reaches the right people at the right time, drives deeper engagement, and higher quality traffic and measurable performance that scales. And we have a few examples here. So the first one through the lens of Honda. And so in a highly competitive automotive landscape, Honda needed to cut through the noise and drive real performance. Using Teads native in-feed placements, the campaign integrated seamlessly into premium publisher environments, meeting users where they'd already engaged and scrolled. And the results speak for themselves. We saw a 273% increase in click-through rate, proving that native contextually relevant placements do drive significantly stronger engagement than traditional formats. But it doesn't just stop there. The campaign delivered an 11% higher conversion rate compared to other channels, showing that not only were users clicking, they were actually taking meaningful actions once they'd landed on the web page. And crucially, it did all of this more efficiently, achieving 32% lower cost compared to social channels. So that's better performance at a lower cost. And for automotive brands, where every interaction matters, this is a powerful combination: attention, intent, and efficiency. And we have another example here for Volvo. So using Teads again in feed native placements. Volvo set out to drive sustained high quality traffic at scale, while also improving downstream performance. So by integrating seamlessly into premium editorial environments, the campaign reached users in moments of active discovery, and that's really, really important. Again, capturing attention in a way that feels natural and non-disruptive. So over just 6 months, the results were very significant. 1.8 million site visitors driven directly to Volvo's platform. But more importantly, it wasn't just about volume, it was also about quality. Through smart retargeting of these engaged users, Volvo reached a 4x increase in conversions from subscriptions. That means the audience didn't just visit, they came back and they took action. And for automotive brands, this is where Teads truly delivers, driving scalable traffic at the top, then turning that interest into measurable results further down the funnel. I'm moving down to CTV performance. And we have a Citroen case study here. I'm not sure if the video plays or not. Well, I'll let it play. It doesn't seem like there's any sound, but maybe we might get something towards the end, which will be important to this. Oh, okay. So traditionally, CTV has been seen as a pure awareness channel, but with Teed CTV, performance offering uh, is becoming a really powerful driver of action. In this campaign, Citroen combined the impact of big screen storytelling with Teed's data-driven optimization and seamless cross-device retargeting, turning attention into measurable results. And the outcomes do speak for themselves. In just 1 month, the campaign delivered over 13,000 site visits, proving that CTV can effectively drive users to take that next step, which you want them to take. Even more impressively, it generated over 5,000 conversions, demonstrating that this just isn't about reach and scale, it's about real performance at scale. And for automotive brands, this is a major shift. You're no longer choosing between brand and performance. With CTV, you get both high impact storytelling on the big screen in the home combined with lower funnel results that truly motivate or move that needle. It's CTV reimagined as a performance engine. I'm moving down into retail solutions. This actually might be the video that we have problems playing.
It's a static only, Steve.
Okay, cool. We haven't got the video. So you're not just seeing a Land Rover ad here, you're seeing your Land Rover ad. And I need to put that in context because I can't show you the video because it won't play for some reason. So powered by geolocation and AI-driven dynamic creative, the campaign adapts in real time to the viewer. So instead of a generic message, you're shown the nearest Land Rover dealership to you, both on screen and through voiceover, which is generated by AI. So your closest showroom is just minutes away, for example, and it will mention that closest showroom in audio plus as a visual cue on screen. So it's simple, but incredibly powerful. And for automotive brands like Land Rover, this means, removing friction from the journey. You're not just building desire, you're immediately guiding the consumer to the next step. So again, the benefits. First, relevance, because the message is tailored to where you are right now. Second, action, by giving a clear local destination. We make it very, very easy for consumers to move from interest to visit. And thirdly, efficiency. AI ensures the right version of the ad is delivered to the right person with the right message maximizing impact every time. This is really more than personalization, it's real world connection, turning a premium Land Rover moment into a direct path to the nearest dealership. And also, let me just show you how Land Rover scaled performance across the entire UK retail network with Teads in-read performance. Um, this wasn't a single campaign, it was a coordinated effort across 155 dealerships, each with dedicated budgets, all working towards one goal. And that one goal was driving engagement with key models. So across the full JLR portfolio, Jaguar, Defender, Discovery, and Range Rover, we activated 10 different models, ensuring broad but highly relevant coverage. At the heart of it was Teed's custom performance carousel, and there was actually over 800 unique dealer tagged creatives that were all built by DCO. Every ad was dynamically tailored, powered by a fully automated DCO system built within the Teeds ad manager. This means each user saw the message specific not just to the model, but to their nearest retailer. Using geo-targeting down to partial postcodes, combined with a curated luxury publisher list, the campaign reached the right audience at the right time with the right message. And importantly, everything was measurable with full creative level reporting over all 800 different DCO variants and audience insights. Land Rover could continuously optimize and learn, ensuring across all 155 dealers. And the results, 73% viewability, well above benchmark, and a click-through rate of 0.28, again outperforming industry standards. So what does this really mean? It means Land Rover didn't just run a national campaign, they delivered localized, personalized performance at scale, driving consistency, efficiency, and real engagement across every corner of the UK. And I'll just finish here on dynamic product ads. So lastly, let me just talk about how we've been using dynamic product ads and are transforming automotive performance in this way. Imagine an ad that doesn't just showcase a car, but shows you the exact car's availability near you right now at your local dealership. So again, using geolocation targeting, Teads DPA dynamically connects each user to their nearest dealership, servicing real-time stock levels for qualified and specific models. So instead of generic messaging, the consumer sees what's actually available right next to them locally and immediately. And that really is where the power lies, because first, relevance. You're showing vehicles that the customer can realistically go and see today, not something hundreds of miles away. Secondly, urgency. When users they see a limited stock nearby, it creates a natural push to act, whether that's booking a test drive or visiting the dealership. And thirdly, efficiency. By aligning media with real inventory, you reduce wasted impressions and focus investment on vehicles that you need to sell and need to move straight away. So for automotive brands, that again once again bridges the gap between digital and physical retail, turning ads into dealership footfall. So it's not just dynamic creative, it's dynamic commerce powered by Teads.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Some really practical tools shared there. I'm just going to finish off this session with some closing remarks. So, hopefully, you found it a really interesting session. You know, at the start, I started the session by really framing what the market forces are, and they are quite considerable, and really sort of illustrating how you can pivot and make sure that you are answering some of the challenges that are out there now and providing the very latest open web solutions for your brands. Really, the big focus now needs to be on winning the big loyalty reset. And for us, there's three key elements to that, and we've covered those throughout the meeting. Number one, you absolutely need to capture the 82% that are open to switching brands. Don't wait for the click. You really need to win the race for mental availability. So that really is talking about making sure that you're pushing that showroom experience further up the advertising funnel and taking it to the consumer rather than them waiting for them to come to you. Number two, open the 10-week selection journey. That 10-week selection journey is getting tighter and tighter, and that 2-week research section at the very start of it is absolutely crucial. If you are not front of mind, you are not going to be on the shopping list, and we can absolutely help you generate the awareness you need for your brand with the enormous scale that we can generate across all the demographics. And then lastly, make sure that you're looking at evidence-based creative. Focus your efforts on the right demographic that is going to buy the car now. And that really is the 45 plus demographic. They have the ability to buy a car now, and they are making up 80% of registrations. So ignore them at your peril. And hopefully throughout this session, we've really illustrated to you that there are a range of tools that can help you own the funnel again and generate those car configurations, test drive leads, time spent on site that you need to convert the customers. So before we close, I just wanted to just pause. Babs, have we had any questions throughout the session?
We have not. No, nothing come through.
Okay. Well, without further ado, we will be following up this session with a recording of this webinar, a copy of the presentation, amongst other collateral as well. It's worth just stating that if you do want our strategic team to come in and work with you on any of the particular challenges that you've got at the moment, focusing on how you can win sporting moments, looking at your conversion funnel, any of those elements, we are more than happy to do so. Just drop me an email at nick.crossley@teads.com and we'd be happy to set something up. But if there are no further questions, I'd just like to thank you for your attendance and have a great day. Goodbye.